Hi, I'm Stu from Hive Mind Automation and welcome back to the Hive for our first video of 2022. Hope you had a great new year, and in this video we're going to be finishing off the Powerboard series as we do a head-to-head comparison of the 4 smart Powerboards that we've reviewed. 3 of them we reviewed recently and one of them was one of my very first videos reviewing a gadget. So we've done individual videos for each of these Powerboards before, but now we're going to weigh up the pros and cons of each and figure out which one is worth spending your hard-earned money on and which one you should just take a pass on. So while I roll the intro, take a moment to subscribe and hit the bell icon to get notified when I release new videos each week, and let's get started. Over the past few weeks, I've been reviewing smart Powerboards. We've seen the brilliant smart Powerboard with USB, the TP-Link KP303 with USB, the Arlec Grid Connect with USB, and to add a 4th Powerboard into the mix, I'm also adding the Arlec Grid Connect 5-outlet Powerboard, where 4 of the 5 power points are switchable. It is worth mentioning, however, that I've been unable to find this particular Powerboard available anymore at Bunnings, so I suspect that it may have been discontinued. And honestly, that's a real shame, because it's actually a pretty decent unit at a decent price, and it has a feature that I think is actually pretty damn good. But we'll talk about that as we go through the scoring. So that one being unavailable these days does mean it's going to lose a couple of points. We're going to score each Powerboard up to 5 points across the following categories: price, where lower is better; the number of sockets, where higher is better; the build quality and design; the feature set; the native app design and features; and lastly, their Home Assistant integration, including the latency that they experience in Home Assistant. So that creates a maximum possible score of 30 points. So to start off with, let's talk about price. Now the 2 Arlec Grid Connect Powerboards actually get 5 points here, being the cheapest of the lineup at $41.98. But I'm knocking 2 points off for the 5-outlet board because it's no longer available. I'm hoping that the only reason it's unavailable is because Arlec are working on a newer version. The TP-Link board comes in second at $49. I'm giving that one 4 points. And the brilliant smart Powerboard at $54.95 comes last in the pricing category, and I'm giving that only 3 points. For the number of sockets, the easiest thing here to do is to just map the number of sockets to the number of points. So the Arlec Grid Connect 5 port gets 5 points. The Brilliant and the Arlec USB each get 4 points, and the TP-Link comes in last in this category with only 3 ports, therefore 3 points. Now for build quality and design, this might be a little bit subjective. This is my personal opinion, and you are more than welcome to disagree with me. Personally, I find the build quality of the TP-Link to be the nicer of the 4 units that I have here. The plastic doesn't feel cheap like the Arlec or the Brilliant Smart units. The strain relief on the cables is good, and the inclusion of individual buttons to trigger each socket is an absolute bonus for me. I'm only giving 3 points each to the Arlecs and the Brilliant Smart for the simple fact that I find that the plastic just feels cheap. And the other thing that's a bit of a problem here, which I'll talk about more in the features section, they didn't lose points for it here, but they will lose points for it later, is the single button that triggers every single socket on the unit. And that's more prevalent on the Brilliant, which we'll talk about later. I did then, however, add another point to the Brilliant Smart unit because of what appears to be a very heavy-duty power cable. Only the Arlec Grid Connect units have a low-profile right-angle plug, allowing for furniture to be closer to the wall if your power points are behind furniture. And all the others have straight-through plugs, but I've not removed points for the straight-through plugs or awarded any extras for having the flat plug. Now for the native features, the TP-Link got 4 points for having the 2.4 amps of USB charging on board, and the individual switching of the sockets helped out a lot here too. The TP-Link is also the only unit in this lineup with any kind of surge protection built in. Considering every unit here is over $40, I would expect surge protection across the board, but that's unfortunately not the case at all. I'm giving the Brilliant Smart 3 points. While it has the most USB ports built in, it also has the lowest power output rating on the USB transformer. And the all or nothing master switch, which also switches off the USB ports, is a bit of a problem for me. I love the fact that the USB ports are switchable on this unit, but in my mind it would make far more sense for them to be switched individually from the power outlets. While the app does allow individual switching, and I'm obviously the first person to advocate for smart control, a lack of physical controls is a little frustrating. It's not a deal breaker, but it does dial back the points a bit. The Arlec USB got 4 points for features because of the Type-C connector and also having the highest USB power output of all the USB enabled boards at 3.4 amps. But again, the lack of physical controls for individually switching the sockets on and off is again a detractor for this unit, and the all or nothing physical button is frustrating for the same reason as the Brilliant. I almost took off another point for this unit because the USB is not individually switchable, but it does in fact make the master switch on here slightly less frustrating. And lastly, the 5 output board here only got 2 points. It doesn't have any USB, and it does have the same frustrations with the master switch. I do, however, like the addition of an outlet that is always on, but other than that, there's not a lot of features to this unit. Now, for the native app, the Casa Smart app for the TP-Link is where I give 5 points. There's a consistency to the way the app looks on any of their accessories, and all of the functionality just works as expected and without hassle. The other 3 units are all using Tuya, but there is enough difference to distinguish between them. The Brilliant got 4 points for being responsive and straightforward to use. All of the functions worked as expected, and the addition of being able to control the USB output individually is a nice touch. Both of the Arlecs only got 3 points because the master switch worked to power all of the sockets on, but not off. The app is still relatively easy to use and the layout is fine, but having the very first feature that you see on the page layout not work properly is a very bad user experience. For the Home Assistant integration, again, the TP-Link gets full marks because of how simple it is to set up even from scratch. All 3 Tuya boards only got 3 points. The initial setup of the new Tuya integration is a bit painful, to be honest. But once it's done, integrating new devices is super simple. The latency introduced by the integration is frustrating, especially when it's not present in the native app. And the Arlec unit with the USB shows a switch in Home Assistant for the USB ports, but that switch appears offline and you can't actually do anything with it. So before we actually proceed on to the final results for these units, I'm going to do a couple of very quick latency tests with a simple light bulb and the Powerboard. I'm using only the first plug on each of the units. It's worth mentioning that from a physical design aspect, the TP-Link is the only unit that has markings above the plug that tell you which plug it is in the app. So I'm going to plug this lamp into port 1 on my TP-Link, and I'll get that in frame. So I'm going to go over to Home Assistant now. I've set up this Powerboard comparison dashboard, and we should have both the lamp and the Powerboard in frame here. You should also be able to see the dashboard. I'm going to turn on the TP-Link and we're going to measure our latency. So 3, 2, 1. That was pretty quick. I couldn't really perceive much of a delay at all. And I'll turn that off. 3, 2, 1. Okay, again, fairly quick. Not much of a perceptible delay. I'll move on now to the Brilliant Smart Powerboard. So same situation here. We've got the lamp. We're plugged into port 1 and I have Brilliant switch 1 here on my dashboard, and we'll test the latency. 3, 2, 1. And that was a pretty bad test. That was very, very slow. I'm going to turn that off, and we're going to try that again because that was really bad. So 3, 2, 1. Okay, so that was a much better test on that, and also Home Assistant is not showing the state correctly. So I will now turn that on and then off again. And again, about half a second of a delay. We'll move on to the Brilliant Smart with USB now, and we will do the same test. So I need the Arlec USB switch 1 and 3, 2, 1. And 3, 2, 1. Okay, so that one was okay. Again, probably the, as expected, the half-second delay that we would normally see with any kind of Tuya integration. And last, we've got the 5-port switch here. So 3, 2, 1. And 3, 2, 1. Okay, so I'll be sure to pop up the results of those latency tests on the screen there for you to make your own decisions. So for the final result, the TP-Link is the winner with 26 points. The Arlec Grid Connect with USB came in second with 22 points, which is actually pretty good considering it is the cheapest available unit in this lineup, and that 3.4 amps of USB charging is hard to pass up. The Brilliant Smart came in a very close third with 21 points, so close behind the Arlec with USB. And the 5-port Grid Connect only got 19 points, and that's partly because it's not available anymore. All in all, the Tuya units ran a very close race with only a couple of points in between. They all tend to have the same advantages and disadvantages, with the exception of the 5-port Arlec, which seems to have been discontinued, which is a real shame because if it weren't for that, it would have come out with the same score as the Brilliant Smart. The TP-Link beat out the competition by getting a perfect score on the build quality, the native app, and the Home Assistant integration. High points for the others were that the Arlec Grid Connect USB won out on the price and also the USB output. The Grid Connect 5-port obviously had the most ports, but for the low points, the Brilliant Smart is expensive. It lacks some features that really would be expected at the highest price point in this lineup, and the Home Assistant integration is not exactly a frictionless experience. For the Arlec, the build quality feels a bit cheap. The native app has features that just don't work, and it has the same problems with the Home Assistant integration as the Brilliant Smart. The biggest con for the TP-Link is the fact that it's only got the 3 sockets. At the risk of seeming biased towards the TP-Link Casa range, I am awarding the TP-Link with the crown for this head-to-head comparison. Now, don't get me wrong, I think that the Arlec with USB is also a absolutely brilliant unit, for the price point and the inclusion of the 3.4 amp USB output and USB Type-C power. In this lineup, there's only one that I probably wouldn't recommend, and that's the Brilliant Smart. And it's quite honestly because it's too expensive for what it is. It has no surge protection, and the 4 USB ports with only 2.1 amps of charging just doesn't make sense. So did I get it right, or did I miss something? Please let me know in the comments down below what your thoughts are about these Powerboards. That is all we have for this video, and I do hope that it helped you in your home automation journey. Be sure to comment down below with home automation ideas that you'd like to see me cover in a future video, and let me know your thoughts on these Powerboards. Don't forget to follow HiveMind Automation on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. And if you like this video, hit the thumbs up button down below to give it a like. If you're not already subscribed, now's the time to hit the subscribe button, and while you're at it, hit the bell icon so you get notified when I release new videos each week as well. If you're currently in the market for a VPN provider, there is an affiliate link in the video description for NordVPN. I've chosen to partner with NordVPN because they've got the best infrastructure of any of the VPN providers I've seen. They also have a strict no-logs policy and servers all over the planet. On top of that, they've got apps for every platform that I can think of off the top of my head, including Windows, Mac, Linux, iOS, and Android. So no matter what platform you're using, you can protect your sensitive personal information while you browse the web. So get a VPN today and use my link below to sign up for NordVPN. Lastly, if you enjoy what I'm doing here and you want to help to support the channel but you're not in the market for a VPN, there is a Buy Me a Coffee link in the video description down below. Contributions made through the Buy Me a Coffee link are put towards making more and hopefully better content for you to enjoy. I want to thank you so much for watching. I'm Stu from HiveMind Automation, and I'm looking forward to seeing you next time. Bye for now.